Yay! We're live, folks, and this is Earth Day. So we're all being powered by the waves coming from Ronnie's brain. So we're not using electricity for today. So
yeah, I'm winding my computer's a wind-up computer. So
I'm pedaling. That's what I'm doing.
So if you see my hand doing a funny thing, it's not what you think. I'm winding up the computer all the time.
Instead of winding me up.
Yeah, yeah, I'll be winding two things up tonight: the computer and Roger.
So what's on the agenda today, General?
Well, we're this is Jailhouse Vegans for a very lovely sanctuary down in East Sussex, Hugletts Wood, and we hope people listening are going to make lots of donations. And the link to donate is a PayPal link. And Roger's going to be putting that across the bottom of the screen. There we go. So if people can, it's ever so simple. Just go on there and give loads of money because it's a brilliant sanctuary. Later on, we'll be seeing some photos and videos of some of the many animals that are living a lovely life there after being rescued. So Jailhouse Vegans, we're talking about jail, obviously, again, and the funny things that happened in jail to myself and this time to Roger as well, because he's in prison by now as well. We're up to 1987, and this is my third jail sentence. So we've already covered the others on the three previous ones. So lots of humorous stories about prison. Because what happened was,
when did your fourth one start running?
My fourth prison sentence. Well, I'll probably be arrested for doing this show, I would think.
Yeah, that's still to come.
That's causing like grievous bodily harm to people in it, I suppose. So that'll be the fourth one. My third one, I'm already in jail on my third one because I didn't get bail. I was a ALF press officer at the time, and I got arrested on conspiracy charges, conspiracy to cause damage and incite other people to cause damage to places that connected with oppressing other animals. And Roger was one of my co-defendants. He got arrested as well. And before my trial, I was held on remand first of all in Hull prison, and then secondly in Armley prison in Leeds. And in I think it was spring of 1987, wasn't it, Roger? We went on trial at Sheffield Crown Court, and I think there were about 10 of us altogether. About 10 defendants went on trial.
Can you remember all the prisons you've been in, Ronnie? Can you?
I think I can probably, yes. I can probably remember. There was probably about a dozen, to be quite honest, altogether.
Yeah, I think I was in 4. I think.
It's probably easier to tell you about the ones I haven't been in.
Yeah, probably.
that'd be a short list. I mean, some of the ones I've been in are closed now. Like I said, in the previous prison, the Oxford prison, which was the first one I was in, has now been it's been turned into a hotel. It's a hotel. You can go and people can go there and say, "Oh, I spent a week in prison." Well, no, you didn't. You're actually in a luxury hotel. It used to be a prison, and they've got the trappings of the prison. They've got the doors are still the prison doors. So somebody thinks, "Oh, I'm being put in a cell now," and they go in there, and that's like a totally luxurious room, you know. Anyway,
well, people can dream, can't
they can dream of that. I'm a tough guy now.
The charges then for your this trial. You had conspiracy to cause arson, you had conspiracy to cause criminal damage, and conspiracy to incite others to cause criminal damage. That's what I was charged. You were the same, weren't you?
It was, yeah. So we weren't actually charged with causing the damage, but we're just charged with like planning to cause it and like planning to encourage other people to. I mean, you couldn't get further away from it, could you? Like the thing is with those charges, it's much easier to prove those charges than to prove that somebody actually did it, because all you've got to prove is just put together, you know.
Yeah, it's very convenient though, isn't it, Rush? Because like you can conspire with somebody you don't actually know. So say you're at the kind of, you think of a wheel, you're at the center, and so I'm connected to you, and then you're connected to somebody else that I don't know. But because of the way that conspiracy works, I'm in league with the person that I don't know.
That's right, and they use it all. They didn't used to use it because it used to cause a big fuss, like civil liberties fuss. But that they use it all the time now. It's the kind of erosion of civil liberties. But we went on trial in 1987. Well, a couple of funny things I remember about the trial is a friend of mine, John Curtin. A lot of people in the animal rights know John. He goes back years. He was in the public gallery. I turned around to look at the public gallery, and he got a black hanky out of his pocket and put it over the top of his head. I thought, thanks, John. That's like really cheered me up, seeing you do that. and another thing was that there was the judge sat there. This Frederick Lawton, wasn't he? He was like an ex-Nazi bloke. He was our judge, and they brought him out of retirement just to kind of so he could sentence like a few animal rights people. And he was sat there, and there was this kind of a couple of people sort of in plain clothes sat next to him. And sometimes judges have magistrates sat next to him, but this one bloke sat next to him. His coat fell open, and he had a gun. He had a gun inside, like obviously to protect the judge. And the rest of the trial, I was terrified. I was trying to put my hand in my pocket in case he's going for a gun. And like shoot him. Like, yeah, the gun. He was some special branch bloke there I suppose, in case we attacked the judge or something, So, but anyway, we ended up. Sadly, I think pretty much all of us. I think maybe one person got acquitted. I think we all either people pleaded guilty or I got found guilty of all three charges. I think you got found guilty of all three as well, did you, Roger?
No, the last two, not the first one.
So you were so you it wasn't quite as serious, but Roger still got 4 years. Roger got 4 years. I got sentenced to 10 years. I was quite pleased to get 10 years because I was expecting. My barrister said to me, "Oh, I think you'll get 15 years." So when the judge says you'll go to prison for 10 years, like I went, "Way!" like that. People thought I was mad. What's he cheering about? He's got 10 years, but because if you're expecting 15 years and you get 10 years, then it's quite a result, really. So anyway, I got taken.
There's a question, Ronnie. Yeah, it was a trial by jury, and Frederick Lawton really only made one mistake in the entire thing, where he didn't know, because the incendiary devices that were the centre of the case, they were made. Their principal, they call them fire bombs, explosives, and everything, but their principal component was 2 firelighters, and the judge didn't know what a firelighter was, and he said that to the jury, and he got firelighters. What's one of those kind of thing? And then the barrister had to explain to the judge what a firelighter was, and he goes, "Oh, well, I don't have those in my bachelor flat in Chelsea." And that was really his only kind of gaffe that he made.
Yeah, bachelor flat in Chelsea, yeah. He probably never lit a fire in his life. He's always had some servant to do it for him, so he didn't know what a firelighter was. But anyway. Yeah, but he so anyway, I got the 10 years, and I went back to Armley Prison. Roger was on bail, weren't you, Roger? But I think you on the sentencing. I think you didn't turn up. Is that right? He went on. He went on the run.
Yeah, I didn't return to one of the scheduled court cases. Yes, that's right. So I was disappeared. He was
disappeared, and so he was a hunted. You were a hunted man, weren't you, Roger?
Well, really? I actually always found that as a bit. I was very angry about that, funny enough, because I thought, well, every copper in the land would nick me as soon as they saw me, but they don't know anything about me. I used to have this kind of thing about, you don't know me, that kind of thing. And I know it's a ridiculous thing to think, but I almost said, well, look, I'm kind of one of the good guys. You don't know me, kind of thing. And yet you knew that they would grab you as soon as they saw you, and it was kind of like on the say-so of somebody who stood for Parliament for the British Union of the Fascists, and you thought, hang on, there's something wrong here, surely.
Do you think the people had your photo, most wanted.
Yeah.
Kinda.
Well, I was in a squatter for a time in Manchester, and this guy came and he goes, "Oh, there's a terrible article about you in the Manchester Evening Post, and you often got people saying that kind of thing about you." And so I trotted off to Manchester Library to have a look, and it was a really bad article. It was saying things like I was stirring up trouble in the anarchist community in Europe, which wasn't true. That I had connections to the IRA, which wasn't true. And so there was all kinds of lies. And I suppose it was by putting out that kind of thing, it made people less sympathetic. And so they would be more liable to shock me if they saw me, I suppose.
They wouldn't hide you.
Yeah.
But they did nearly get you, didn't they, at one stage?
Yeah, it was really funny. We were in this rented place in Anglesey. And we were settling down to watch a Woody Allen film. I think it's called Sleepers. And I'd pulled the couch up because the TV was like a small little box in those days, black and white. And so I pulled the couch up. We got the kids off to bed and everything. And suddenly there was a bang on the door, which was at the side. And I just heard this voice saying, "Is Alf in?" and my partner goes, "Who the hell's Alf?" He goes, "Oh, don't be smart with me. Is Alf there?" And so I kind of twigged that there was something going on. So I made a dash for the window, opened the window, and suddenly they burst in. But because I put the couch there, the door hit the couch, and it was a bit like a film, it all bounced back on them and everything. So as I jumped out the window, I just felt this kind of hand on the back of me. But I got out and there was like a building site. And so I ran into this building site. And I just laid low for ages and ages. And then I couldn't work out whether the cops had gone or not. So I crept back into the garage and turned the electricity off and ran back out again into the building site. and then my partner came out with a torch, and I was kind of going, psst, psst, like this, kind of, have they gone? Oh yeah, they're gone ages ago. Right?
So why did you turn the electric off? Was that a cunning plan?
Yeah, to bring them out of the house.
Well, so go and look for the fuse box, like.
Yeah, that's right. Make it look as though there's been a power cut. And so I thought whoever's in the house would come out to try and find out why electricity had gone off. And I could work out who was in the house, you see. So,
that was very clever.
Oh, it worked, yeah, very good.
How did they get you in the end then? Because eventually they did get you, didn't they?
Well, it was weird because we used to go on a Sunday. We used to go down to the local shop, which is just down the road. It was a little village out in the middle of nowhere. I used to go down and get the paper, and we'd come back and we'd read the paper. Usually the Observer and the Guardian. We'd read the paper in bed. And so we all settled down, got a cup of tea and all that kind of stuff. I opened up the Guardian and there was a picture of me and kind of, wanted and all this kind of stuff. And again,
in the Guardian.
Yeah. And again, it made this claim. Well, it was kind of a bit sneaky that they had my picture in a little story next to an article about the IRA. And it looked as though there was some connection between the two. Right. And so somebody in the village must have recognized me. And so I think about 2 days later, we got a bang, bang, bang on the door. And they were.
You were the only fugitive in the village.
Yeah, I was. Yeah, the only fugitive in the village. Yeah. In the village. Yeah.
so they got you in, and you ended up, I suppose, in Armley, didn't you? Back in Leeds prison, doing the 4-year sentence.
Yeah. The thing is, it was a bit. Because I thought I was going to get extra time because I've gone on the run, and then eventually they said that I wouldn't. And then I asked if I could give a statement from the dock, and I said that I wanted to remind the activists of the policy of the ALF, which was not to harm anyone, because at the time there was all this rumor that the ALF had started to move into Semtex and this kind of stuff, which in the end the police didn't even believe that they said you're not going to go from firelights to Semtex.
and the judge said, "What's this Semtex? I've never heard of that before."
Yeah, I don't know that in my bachelor.
Yeah, you would in a minute because there's some under your seat.
Uplifting experience.
Yeah, because I mean, when I was put in Armley, because I've got 10 years, I got treated as a Category A, highly dangerous to the public prisoner, and don't encourage Ronnie and his beans. Oh, Wendy was listening to the beans episode, the first one about the beans. Yeah, we'll have to go back on YouTube.
That's an answer to this one here. The bean seduction story. Is that Mr. Bean? Is it?
Oh, the bean seduction story. Well, the bean seduction story. We probably won't have time to talk about the bean seduction story. But if you listen to the first edition of the Jailhouse Vegans, then I think the bean seduction story is in that one. How to seduce a vegan? You use both beans.
Sorry, Amber, we don't pay Ronnie enough for him to do the story. Sorry.
You'll have to. That one's on Dave now. That one you'll have to. You'll have to watch Dave for it. Oh yeah, but so anyway, I'm treated as a Category A prisoner, and they've got these special cells for Category A prisoners, all with thick walls and double bars. And all the furniture is made of cardboard. It was all thick cardboard. It was really strong. I suppose it's in case you use the chair to hit the prison officer or something, as a dangerous criminal.
It still hurt, wouldn't it?
It would still hurt with the cardboard, yeah. Because I used to do step ups. So I was really into doing exercise and that. I used to do step ups on the chair, the cardboard chair. It was like really strong. But everywhere you went, you had to have 3 prison officers with you. And I think the reason why they had these 10 Category A cells, and I think the reason why they made me Category A was just to keep the cells filled up, because it was extra work for them, keeps them in the job. And so if I want to go to the toilet, 3 would go with me. I mean, they wouldn't come right in the toilet; they stand outside. And then on the exercise, on the exercise, you wouldn't go on the normal exercise yard. You'd have exercise in this compound. It had a huge fence round it with all barbed wire on the top. And all outside the fence, there was prison officers patrolling with German Shepherd dogs. And so all of us that were walking around was all the Category A prisoners. So I was in with some like really, really dangerous guys. And I got talking to this one bloke, and he killed someone. He'd coming home one night, it was near Christmas, he'd seen a bloke, and it was an elderly teacher, and he killed this bloke. And I was walking around with him, and I said to him, "Why was it you killed? Why did you kill that bloke? What did he do to you?" And he said, "I killed him because he was there." I thought, shit, I thought, shit, I'm here. I hope you don't think I'm here. I was like really terrible.
Like a mountain.
Yeah, you see. So anyway, eventually, I got. What happened was this guy, a rapist, came in that got 10 years, and they kind of probably thought, well, the rapist is probably slightly more dangerous than Ronnie. They put him in my cell, and I just went.
The thing is, though, Ronnie, right? You mentioned the rapist, right? And Deb makes the point here about our policy wasn't to hurt anybody, and you received these lengthy sentences, and of course our trial coincided with the Vicarage rape trial, and they got less than you, and even a Tory MP stood up in Parliament and questioned that. Is that how come these ALF people are getting more? Because the Vicarage rape trial was a really vicious attack, and so I mean that is true. I mean, like, we have actually had a non-violent policy. We did, and I think the judge, Lawton, who sentenced us, I think he had a rape, because he didn't just do us. He had he stayed on for a couple of more cases, and I think one of his was a rape case, quite a bad rape case, and he gave the bloke 4 years. And we're getting the same as that or more. But the thing is, you see, someone like a rapist, they're not a threat to the system, are they? They're not a threat to big business, not a threat to the system. They're just, they're a threat to individual people. And so people who are all part of the system would regard people like us as more dangerous, which is why we would get, we're more of a threat to them. We're not more of a threat to ordinary people. We're more of a threat to them. So that was why we would, they would give us the long sentences. We've kind of covered this one, really, because we, I mean, like, you went on hunger strike to get vegan food in the first time. But on my first sentence. By the time we got to the 1980s, you just had to waive your vegan society.
party member and you had a card, you just show them that and you got a vegan diet. And, the vegan diet really was pretty good. I didn't really have complaints about it. I thought it was, I mean, it wasn't expensive. It wasn't, it wasn't kind of luxury, but it was nutritious enough. I never really, had any complaints about the food.
Do you remember the bottles of Vicon, Ronnie? Remember, I still like that. You don't like it, do you? Vicon. It's like kind of Marmite, but it's green.
I don't mind it. I don't mind it. I think I prefer. I'm not very keen on. I find Marmite too salty, really, to be honest. So anything that's a bit less salty than that, I don't mind. But we used to get it in when we got the yeast extract. We used to get a goodie bag with vegan food in. We'd have a vegan diet, but we'd get a goodie bag because there were some things like we couldn't, like the prison tea. We couldn't have it because they put the milk in it already, and so we had to make our own tea. We got tea bags, make your own tea, soy milk. And we get in our goodie.
We managed to get some fair trade tea. Remember that? Because we didn't have tea for about 3 months because we wouldn't thing. And then they started getting tea for us, and but we insisted that it was fair trade. So that was pretty good.
We did that as another little victory that we won over the system, I suppose. But the Marmite and the peanut butter that we got used to be in just plastic tubs. It didn't really say what make it was. So I don't know what what sort of, certainly what I got. But as I said, I got moved to an ordinary cell, and they were like, there were like 3 of us in the cell, and but I ended up in this cell on my own, and then I thought it was great, cell on my own, and then they put another bloke in with me, and he walked in the door. It's quite a tall bloke. Come in the door. He had a swastika. He had a swastika tattooed on his forehead. I thought, oh shit! Like, it's a Nazi come into the cell with me. What am I going to do? I got chatting to him, and in actual fact, he turned out to be quite a nice guy. And so I said, "How come you got a swastika?" He says, "Oh, like, I got in with a bad crowd, and and all that, like these right wing people." He said, "But I rejected it all now, gone against it all now." And basically what happened, it was in connection with them that he was in prison, because what he did was he was in for robbery of a Union Jack. These guys had kind of, he'd gone with these guys and they'd seen a Union Jack on sale in the shop, and they said, "Oh, go in there and steal the Union Jack." So he threatened the bloke with a knife, nicked the Union Jack, and like it was the first thing I think he'd ever done, and he was on trial. And what happened? Because he kind of, I suppose apart from that, he hadn't done anything else. He was looking at quite a lenient sentence, and he went to court, and to his horror, all these Nazi blokes turned up and sat at the back of the court. And when the judge was all going to give him like about 18 months, and be lenient. They all started Sieg Heil him. You see, and the judge said, "Because your friends are here doing that, I was going to give you 18 months, but you will have 4 years." So because of that, you got extra time. You see, but he had. I had to go to the dentist. Yeah, it was. Yeah, but I got him. I got him interested in going vegan, and he went vegetarian. Whether he eventually went vegan, I kind of don't know, because I think he ended up getting moved to another prison. But he. I had to go to the dentist. I had a bad tooth. I had to go to the dentist. And like prison dentists are dodgy, because they're like dentists that can't get a job anywhere else. So they go into prison. And they're always like terrible. They call her like the butcher, And this one I went to in there, he was this mad Zionist bloke. He had all pro-Israel stuff all over the dentist surgery, and stuff, And he was quite, he wasn't very pleasant, to me. And I had to have a tooth out. He took the wrong tooth out. He took the wrong one out. I never went back to it. I thought, oh no, I won't bother. I'll put up with it now, But anyway, this guy, Cogsy, his name was, this guy with a swastika. He had a bad tooth. He says, "Oh, I've got a really bad tooth. I'm going to have to go and see the dentist." And I said to him, "Hang on a minute." I said, before you go to see the dentist, I need to tell you something about the dentist. I said, "It's like a Zionist in Israel and all that." And I said, "The other thing you need to worry about," he says, "he'll have gas there, won't he? He'll have gas." And he was going, oh my God. And he held out. And in the end, he said, I'm going to have to risk it. I can't stand it. So he went to the dentist. I thought, I thought he's not coming back. Not coming back. The time I thought he's not coming back, like, he's had an accident in the dentist chair, But he did come back. He was all shaking and he was all, oh, blimey. I said, what happened? He said, he got me in the chair. He had the drill, right? And he said, what's the meaning of this on your head? And he pointed at the head of that. And he said, I had to say, oh, it was when I was young and I'm not like that anymore. And he said, the dentist says, I'll let you off this one time. And it was like that. He managed to just get... he managed to get through it. But like, there was another guy came in the cell. And it was like, he had a visit. And he said, I got a visit. He said, I better put on my visiting trousers, you see. And I thought, he probably smart pair of trousers put on for a visit. So what he did was, he took his pants off. I said, well, you take your pants off. He says, I have to take the pants off. And he put the trousers on. I said, what is in the visiting trousers? What it was, there was a hole in where the arse, there was a hole in the trousers where the arse was, like underneath. And what it was is to get drugs. He was having drugs smuggled in, and like put the drugs up his bum. So he wore the special visiting trousers that had the hole in the bum.
God.
And then, and when he came back to the cell. Like, we had a bucket in the cell to go to the toilet in. We'd have to empty it down this sluice, when we got let out. And he went and he had to kind of poo in the bucket to get this. It was all wrapped up. This cannabis, and he was going, "Oh, do you want something?" It's all, no. Don't want any of that. It's terrible. And then another time,
did he say, "Do you want some of this shit?" No,
some of this shit. Yeah, well, probably some of it. I mean, you couldn't tell the difference because it's brown anyway. And you couldn't tell what was what, would you? Really, I wouldn't go anywhere near that. But then he'd sell that to other people and all that.
To answer Paul, no, real prison is much funnier than porridge, Paul. So don't worry about that.
Well, how it was like porridge was like the layout of it was certainly certain prisons, what are called local prisons, which is the prisons that you go to first of all.
Yeah, Army looked like porridge, didn't it?
Army looked like porridge. The cells are the same and all that kind of thing, and so it's a similar. The settings similar to visiting trousers. Yeah. I had some. It may not come in this one, but I had visiting overalls. But that's another story. Visiting overalls. I'll wait for the story about the visiting overalls. Anyway,
is it clean, Ronnie? Is it clean?
Is any of my stuff clean, Roger? It wouldn't be funny, would it, if it's clean? No. Anyway, so. And this isn't clean. This story is not clean at all. This next one. What happened was, I was kind of going. You get let out in the morning, right? Get let out in the morning, and you had to take your bucket. We take turns, take the piss bucket and pour it down this sluice in what they call a thing called the recess where you go. It's like where the toilets are and all that, and it's called slop out. They happen to go slop out, and you go out with a bucket. Anyway. I was doing that, and this bloke came up to me. He said, "Ronnie," Ronnie. He said, "I'm up for the half ounce. I'm up for the half ounce." I said, "What are you talking about?" He said, "I hear you're giving half ounce. I hear you pay half ounce." I said, "Because half ounce tobacco, that's the currency in prison." Yeah. I said, "What do you mean?" He said, "For bum." He said, I'm up for the half ounce. You want to, I'm willing, half ounce for bum. I said, "What are you talking about?" And I looked across to where because my cellmates were his cellmates, because he'd only been in a couple of days, this bloke, and the two blokes he was in with, they were blokes I used to have a laugh and joke with on exercise, and they were like pissing themselves laughing because he was desperate for tobacco, this bloke, and they told him, they said, "Oh, you want to go and see Ronnie Lee? He'll give half ounce for, the bum." So he was very disappointed that I wasn't going to pay him. But he was in. I mean, what he was in for that bloke was crazy, because what happened was he went to pay his electric bill. And he's got his name and everything on the bit of paper. He says, "Oh, I will pay my electric bill." and they opened the till. This place paid. They opened the till, and when they opened the till, he grabbed a load of money out of the till and like ran home with it. So obviously they wouldn't have any idea who he was, would they? And that's why he was in prison for, that bloke. But I mean, we used to have like on exercise there, because I was no longer having to exercise in this great big cage. It was the ordinary exercise yard. You used to walk around in a circle, and it used to be like, really boring. Walk around in a circle for an hour, and so there was a guy that I got, sort of friendly with there. He was from Sheffield. He was in for he beat someone up with a snooker cue for some reason. So anyway, he was in the prison, and what we used to do, because like obviously a lot of people in prison smoke, and like some of them you get swoopers, and what they do is like on the exercise they'll pick up dog ends. They pick up dog ends, you see. So what me and this other bloke used to do is like we used to get cigarette paper, and we used to make fake dog ends. We made a load of fake dog ends, you see. And what we used to do is, as we were walking around, it was like out of, that film where they shake the trousers and or the Great Escape and that. We were like the same with dog ends. We were like going around, just throwing these fake dog ends out of pocket, and then we were having a great laugh watching them pick them up. Going, oh yeah, there's all these dog ends, and just imagine when they got back to the cell and unwrapped them, and all they found was like more cigarette paper. But what happened was that there was like one of these dog ends. We, for some reason, we probably was a bit longer. We made it a bit longer than we should have picked it up. And I think he thought, I can smoke this now, you see. He lit the thing about like that. And he started ranting and raving, fucking hell, like that, shouting, and all the prisoners saying, shut up. And we nearly died. We were absolutely like, when you laugh so much that you think you're going to die. We were like that. And this prison officer was shouting, Lee, you're in prison, you're not supposed to laugh, what's the matter with you? But it was like, it was like so hilarious. And like obviously we used to have visits there. I think when you're on remand before you get convicted, you can have more or less have a visit every day. I think, apart from Sunday, something like that. But when you're convicted, I think you can have about maybe one a week, one every 2 weeks. And I was one day I was going into the visiting room, and there was this prison officer there, and normally like they'll pat you down, search you, it's not a thorough search. They're looking to see if you're, taking anything, it's trying to smuggle anything out on the visit that you're not supposed to. Because what guys would do, like some of them sell drugs in prison, and then they get money. Other prisoners will smuggle money in, and then they pay the ones for the drugs, and then they smuggle the money out, you see. So they're kind of looking for things like that. So I'm going through the visit, and there's this prison officer. Anyway, I've noticed he's got a pair of gloves on, pair of like plastic gloves, And I said to him, what are you wearing those gloves for? And he says, oh, because of AIDS. And I said, oh, I am sorry. I had no idea. I had no idea you had the disease. I'm so sorry. Yeah, he went. Burn. And
I'm looking at the time. What do you think?
Yes. Yeah, well, this is kind of quite. It's quite a convenient spot now, because really that's sort of. That's probably all the funny stories I can remember from Armley, from Leeds. So I think that it would be a good time now to see some photos and videos from the sanctuary and from Wendy to talk about the animals.
Wendy said the prison sounds like an average night in Sheffield. Of course, it was Sheffield where the trial was. So
the Sheffield was in the trial, but the prison was in Leeds.
Yeah, but Sheffield doesn't bring back any happy memories. I remember that kind of weird kind of roundabout, you walk underneath, don't you, and all that. Anyway.
Yeah, I used to make fake when we were driving into the court, you'd have all people like staring at the coach because they knew that you were prisoners going to the court. I always make faces like, "Ugh," like at the window, and I'll give them their money's worth. There's a mad, deranged killer going for trial at the window. Anyway, these are lovely. They're lovely.
Right, Wenda. So we're going to run through these. Do you want to just tell us who we're dealing with here?
Right. On the left is Harold Pierce, and the same year that he came to us was his little friend Douglas. Now they're two orphan lambs. We take orphan lambs every year rather than let the local farmers leave them in the field for carrion and foxes. I need to say also the reason they're wearing little sweaters is that they come to us in a very weak state. It's very, very important that they use whatever energy they've got to grow, to get well. And by just popping a little sweater on them, it actually keeps the heat in the body. So we don't do it for decoration.
Yeah, Wenda, can you say that carrion and foxes bit again?
Carrion. Yes. What happens with a lot of sheep farmers is because the sheep these days have 3 lambs, at least 2 or 3, and to make money from the lambs, they only need to raise 2 healthy ones. So if one is sick, like a third lamb often is, it's the weakest one, they just leave them half dead lying in a field to feed the foxes, so the foxes supposedly don't take the healthy lambs. They can't take healthy lambs. It's a rubbish thing to say. But we decided that we would actually go out and say to the farmers, please, we don't want to walk through fields anymore with half-dead, half-eaten lambs. Bring them to us. We won't berate you. We won't say anything to you. We'll just take them and raise them, and we'll be very grateful to you. So over the years, we must have taken and raised about 60 orphan lambs that would have been left in the field.
I thought you said awful lambs at first, but it's awful.
It's my microphone. It's halfway down my throat.
Let me see if I can move this on.
Good idea. This is so beautiful. Those of you who came to the trailer on Sunday would know that Sigri, the little piglet on the left, joined us after an interesting car journey, and the lamb on the right is an orphan lamb. And when the orphan lamb Freya came in, Sigri went up to her. She was actually sitting on Matthew's knee, and Sigri stood on her back legs and greeted her with a kiss. I think actually they're trying to see if either of them were food, but I like to think of it in a nice way.
No, that's the vegan interpretation.
Yes, very. Mother Rose and her son Bob Bean. Mother Rose was 18 when Bob Bean was born. It was supposed to have been her last pregnancy. After having given birth to him, she had no goodness in her body, so it resulted that he was a dwarf. He's still 3 years on. He's still much smaller than he should be, but mothered with her son by the farmer who made her give birth at 18. And somebody contacted us and said, look, if I can get them released, because they're grazing our land, will you take them? And we said, most definitely. So they came to us 3 years ago, and she's got her boy, her final calf, and he'll grow with her, stay with her probably until she leaves her body.
I'm going to ask you the deeply specious culture question again. The ear tags, you're not allowed to take them off, right?
No, it's a terrible thing for us, and I think every sanctuary, because in America they have ceremonies of cutting out the ear tags and the animals become free and no longer numbers. But unfortunately, we've learnt firsthand that by not putting ear tags in, or by not replacing ear tags, when the government officials pop round with their clipboards and their rules and regulations, we can be fined up to £1,000 per tag. So we don't have that sort of money. So we've always said we won't put them back in until we have to if they fall out. I think I said Sunday we did actually maintain one calf who was born here, Gromit, who lived with us 16 and a half years. We maintained him tag-free. I don't quite remember how we did it. Maybe we didn't have investigations and visits in those days. But he only had tags, not in his ears, but we handed them to the Naka man when they came to collect his body when he died. But these days, things are much tougher now. Sadly, all animals in sanctuaries are classed as the national herd. It doesn't matter whether they're food production or not, but we're obliged to follow all regulations that the government lay down for traceability.
Mm. So Gromit, so did you have one called Wallace as well?
No, just Gromit.
Ah.
No Wallace.
just to confuse it all.
That's it. This is Piglet Child. We raised her because she was so fragile. She used to sleep in bed with me at night. She was fed every few hours, so I found it easier for her to be with me until she grew too big and took up 2/3 of the bed. And she developed a penchant for tea and soya milk. And Matthew used to come in. You can see the flasks at the back, which were her nightly milk replacer. And Matt would come in about 5 o'clock, and he would bring me a cup of tea, which I really needed after a sleepless night or 200 of them. And she suddenly realized that there was tea in that mug, and she would climb on his knee as she is, and she would put her snout up, tip the mug, and guzzle it all. Who knows what this is, or who this is?
Oh,
Ronnie, do you know?
I think it's a budgie, isn't he?
Yes, a large budgie. We have one of those with the sheep. This young man, he is incredibly beautiful. He was supposedly, how the story goes is that he was taken by a Roma family and was intended to be their Christmas lunch. Now, sadly for the people, but luckily for him, when the whoever, I think it was the father of the family, decided he was going to butcher this boy. He's actually called Zoothorn Rolo, for Captain Beefheart fans out there. But he fought back, and he damaged the man very, very badly, and then went walkabout. We didn't know this had happened until the person whose field he'd taken up residence in called and said, could we home a rear? So being unaware of the legislation, because some of the birds we have to have a special exotic license for. Fortunately, we found out we don't for a rear. So we said, yes, we'll come. And I don't think anybody quite knew how they were going to catch him. So I gave Matthew a cardigan, not to wear, but to take with him. And he covered his head, and he stood absolutely still once his head was covered. So he sort of wrapped his arms around him and threw him over his shoulder in a very gentle manner, and walked him to the trailer that we brought him home in.
You should have got Rod Hull involved.
Well, there were lots of Rod Hull jokes going.
that could have been quite painful for the rear, though. You know.
Very, very. But he could have ridden him home if it wasn't non-vegan. But here we have a no breeding policy, believe it or not. But occasionally nature follows its own course, and this tiny little gosling was born last year. She's quite large now. She's almost like her parents there, and there were six geese who looked after her, all from the same family, and all who came to us at the same time. And it was just, I was out with my camera when I took this photograph, and it was just the most beautiful thing to see. Something so tiny being attended to by such a massive, normally very, very mean goose mother. So, yeah, rather than 6, we have 7 geese in that family now. And once again, one has disappeared and is sitting on eggs somewhere, but hopefully she'll turn up.
Do you know, Wenda, I think that one of the tragedies of other animals is that they're so cute when they're young, and that's been their downfall in some ways, isn't it?
It's horrendous. The number of phone calls we get regarding, well, mostly birds that are so sweet when they're little, all fluffy and nice. And then as they grow up and they start to demonstrate a personality, and it's everybody's right to have a personality or character. They don't have to follow a certain suit, but nobody wants them then. When they start to develop, they're not wanted. It's like dogs and cats.
Yeah.
Here,
I mean, I volunteered at an animal sanctuary, and people used to ring up and say, we want a puppy because we've got bored of this one. You know, they're growing up. You know, so.
I think just to sidetrack slightly, I remember one phone call from a lady maybe 20 years ago who phoned and said, I had to take her pig. And I said, I beg your pardon. And she said, I've hand-reared this pig, and it's impossible to live with. He keeps attacking my husband and my son. And I said to her, you don't need a sanctuary, you need an animal behaviorist for you, your family, and the pig concerned. And she had it living in the house, she had hand-reared it, she didn't understand the psychology of pigs, or male anything, come to that, in that as he grew, he saw her as his. And therefore the husband and the son, being male, were a threat to him, so he would see them off. And she was most abusive. She didn't want him in the house because he was hassle. She didn't want to have to deal with the consequences. And I actually put the phone down on her because she just wouldn't listen that he was her responsibility. You can't take a piglet. A pig is for life. She didn't want to know.
Right. So
anyway,
we're going to speed up a little bit now.
Okay. So
yeah.
Newt, this is Newt in the background, the sheep, and we have the most amazing cockerel called Frankenfurter. This is Seth with his gigantic, wonderful horns.
You wouldn't want to get in the way of those, I don't suppose.
No, they're great if you're standing up close to him because they sort of hug you like arms. This is Fleur. Fleur and one of our very good friends, Mark Nelson, who absolutely adores her. She has a special person in America, but Mark is here always with her.
Mark has got a tattoo of Fleur, hasn't he?
He has, actually. If you look at his arm,
yes,
his right arm there, you can see the lower part of Fleur's face.
Yeah.
And he had that done before he even met her. He just fell in love with her from Facebook.
Now, Mark Nelson.
Yeah.
Mark.
I suppose when he was a kid, he was called Half Nelson.
And this is Aileen, one of the cows that we bought from Ireland, 21 cows. It was our biggest thing ever. We didn't even think we were capable of doing it. She gave birth on the 1st of April to this dear, sweet little calf who will now stay with her mother. Note, she has no ear tags. We're going to push it to the limit to not tag her. She's been registered. We've got the tags here. So we'll just play it by ear.
Just bear with me a minute. I'm going to drop that out. Change computers. And,
all this technology.
I know.
It's Techno Man in.
This is what Matthew and I see 2 or 3 times a year as the cows change field. To me, it's one of the most beautiful times where I sit in the grass with my camera and just film them as they come through. It's perfection, and if you listen carefully, you can hear them crunching the grass.
And finally, we have this one.
This is our superstar boy. You can see the strength of Brian Baru the bullock here as he pushes a bale of a bale of hay, 350 kilos, just nudging it around. And he plays with it like it's nothing.
It's amazing. So hopefully when people having watched all those lovely pictures and videos will feel even more inclined to make a donation to Hugletts Wood, and there's the there's where you go to, because obviously things are even more difficult now. I mean, they're never easy for sanctuaries anyway.
No.
I think sanctuaries
The
always
thing is,
struggle.
it's difficult for everyone, and we always say we do whatever we can ourselves. We're working flat out at the moment because feed has gone up 100% because of the shortage of hay and straw. But we're not the only ones in this situation. We're all in the same situation. So if people feel inclined to donate to us just a little bit, it would be very gratefully received.
Right, so Ronnie, we've done the advert. So right, you've got about
On the adverts like that. Well, yeah, what I'm going to do that quickly.
Be funny again. Be funny again, and tell us
I'm
your
going to try and be
didgeridoo
funny
story.
again. Yeah, because obviously, you know, a lot of laughs we had in prison, but you know, before I got on the run up to being put in prison, and like kind of at one time, nearly all my life was either in prison or on the run up to prison. But there was some very funny incidents connected with that, because a lot of in the, you know, going back to the I suppose that kind of late 1970s, I was very involved in hunt sabs at the time, and there was a young woman in the hunt saboteurs called name was Aisha that I started going out with, and she lived in Tottenham in North London. I used to go around to see her, and whenever I'd knock on her door to kind of call for her, if I look behind me, there were some houses at the back, and there was always a woman spying on me out the window. I could see her at the top window, like look. Every single time I went round, this woman was spying. So at one time I thought, right, knocked on the door, round, woman spying. So I thought, right, okay. Took my trousers and pants down and just showed her my arse. And she never spied again after that. I think she's probably became totally traumatized. But Aisha was her father was a Muslim. Her mother was English, and she married this Muslim guy, and so.
Here's a comment about your arse there, Ronnie, I think.
Wonderful, yeah. and they'd separated, but he still thought that he had kind of some kind of control over his children, obviously, because I've been going out with Aisha for a while, and Mum said, Ronnie, I need to have a word with you. I need to have a quiet word. So I said, all right. I said, what is it? She said, you need to be very, very careful. I said, what's that? He said, because Aisha's father, if he finds out she's going out with you, she's going out with a non-Muslim, he says he carries around this great big knife, and you know he'll knife you. You know, I was terrified. Wherever I went, I was looking. There's like a Muslim guy come, because they, you know, isn't new with the knives. You know, like he obviously then, you know, had a knife. I'd like spent my whole life like kind of looking out for this guy. this guy coming at me with a knife, and thankfully he never did, you know. But we used to, as I said, you know, I met her through the sabbing, and used to do a lot of hunts in those days. And one of the things we used to kind of sab was the grouse shooting. We used to go up to the grouse moors in Derbyshire, and I mean, on one occasion I stood in front of a bloke pointed the gun at me. You know, we stood in front of him, and he got the gun. He says, "I bloody well shoot you." He had the gun. I said, "Well, go on then. You'll get life in prison if you shoot me." And he's, you know, the other guy said, "Don't be a fool. Put the gun down." And he put the gun down. You know, but like, had he kind of had a rush of blood, he could just shot me. I think, and now I think, bloody hell, that was a mad thing to do. You know, I was kind of probably even madder in those days than I am now.
You know, Ronnie, I had a close call on the grouse moor. I was leading this group of sabs. I was striding along, and I turned back and I said, "Come on!" You know, we were in a rush kind of thing, and I stepped into like a crevice. I just went boom straight down, and it went right up to my neck. I mean, it could have been 30 or 40 foot, you know.
Yeah.
And so I was just like this, you know, like a head, and they had to pull me out and everything. But I was thinking, blimey, that could have been really serious, you know.
Yes, I mean that is dodgy that there's things like that around on there. Look, I mean, had I fallen in that crevice, that'd have been the end of me, wouldn't it? My size.
Oh, you wouldn't have been seen then.
I wouldn't have been seen. I'd have been found some years later in a skeletal condition, probably. But one time we found we got to the grass shoot, and it was like half time. They have like a half time, you know, and basically on the top of this hill there was this hut. You see, and somebody said, "Oh, that's their hut where they go to at half time." You see, and we could see them in the distance making their way to this hut. But we all got there first on top of the hill. We broke in there. There was all beer. There was loads of beer. You see, in this hut. So anyway, we got the beer. We were all drinking the beer, you know, whoa, you know, and all that. And they could see us. The shooters could see us, and they were all ranting and raving and like waving their arms about, and we were like putting the fingers up to them and drinking. We were drinking their beer, like, and they could see us. And what we couldn't drink, we just destroyed it all. And then we buggered off. So like when they got there was no beer left for them at all. But there's another story like to do with that. I mean, like it's once again connected with beer. We went to, after one of these sabs on the grass shoot, we went to this like a nearby pub. You see, all the sabs are in a nearby pub. You see, and I think that some of them had unsab stuff on. You see, and the landlord, we got a drink, and the landlord said, "You bloody hunt saboteurs, you hooligans!" And he started mouthing off. You see, this landlord. And we thought, right, you know, we're not going to stay in here very long, like, you know. But we'd already got our drinks. Anyway, he went down the cellar. The room where we were in, there was a hatch going down into the cellar of the pub. And he went down in the cellar, this landlord, to get more beer, obviously. And anyway, I shut the hatch over and I locked it. I locked him in the cellar. And it was all banging. It was all right, yeah. But of course, because there was music, they couldn't hear him. So anyway, I don't know whether he might be still down there. I don't know. So we just left the pub, and the landlord was locked in the cellar.
What about this point, Ronnie? Being asked about mental health and what did you do to maintain it in prison? I kind of tend to think that you just kind of get on with it, don't you? And also, I reckon that things might have been easier back then maybe than now. And also, if you talk to people like Jake Conroy, I mean, it's a bit of a different thing if you're in prison in North America than Britain. I mean, I'm not saying it's a holiday camp or anything, but it's certainly easier than that, I would say.
I think so. And I think if you're in prison for like animal liberation stuff, I think it's kind of, in some ways it's easier because like you kind of know
you got a bit of status because the other cons regard you as a political prisoner, don't they?
They kind of do, yeah. I mean, once they got over the fact that you haven't done anything for personal gain, which some of them don't, find it difficult.
Yeah, they can't understand it. How much did he get paid? Nothing. How
much those animals? They go, all those animals you took, they were valuable. Where you were going to sell them, like they were rare. Oh no, they were just ordinary, like mice or whatever. They can't get their head around it. But once they do understand, they kind of do. You do. I found there's quite a lot of sympathy, really. But I think the fact, and also the support you get, because we used to get loads of letters, loads of letters of support and all that, so you feel kind of buoyed up by that. And also you feel that because you're not in because you've done something bad or because you've done something stupid. I think that helps you it does help you get through it.
I think the screws are a bit like that as well, aren't they, Ronnie? Because they're not allowed to regard you as a political prisoner, but they kind of do, because they know you're not the same as the general cons, really.
I mean, I had a conversation with a few of them that would say to me, look, I'm not meant to say this, but I don't think you should be in here. You're not a criminal. There was, like there was quite a lot of sympathy from. So I mean, there's you do get that, some that ain't very pleasant, but a lot of them, they were kind of, they were okay. There was one that in one prison, I consoled one because he's very, very fond of his dog, and his dog died, and he kind of came to me for help and support. You know, I was somebody, he felt that it was easier to talk to me than anyone else, because obviously I understood, you know, and I kind of helped him through that. He used to talk to me every day about how he felt about the dog and everything. But I think it's one last funny story. I kind of at the time I was living in North London, in a flat in North London, and there was this concerted night of action by the ALF against vivisectors, and what it was like they're attacking, you know, where we found out all these vivisectors, and we found out where they lived and everything, and what they'd done, and there was a coordinated all over the country. People attacked like the homes of the vivisectors. I mean, they didn't attack their home. It was like their cars. People went and damaged their cars and stuff like that, or painted on their door, and it was like, you know, stuff like that. And anyway, there was somebody sent me an article from I think it was from the Yorkshire Post. There'd been an attack on this vivisector. I think it was his car. I think it was in Leeds. It was. I've got another funny story about Leeds, probably in the next episode. But anyway, this was in Leeds. What happened? There's a real big funny story about Leeds. I think Roger was born there. But anyway, he's deliberately not listening now. So what it was this vivisector. We had all this evidence about what this vivisector had done. And in this newspaper article, he said, I don't know why they attacked my house. I've never done animal experiments. And I read this, I thought, oh, bastard, lying bastard, you see. So what I did was, I thought, I need to write to the paper, a letter to the paper, and give them all the evidence. Because we had all the scientific papers where he talked about his animal experiments. So I thought, I'll write a letter to the paper, right? And I'll outline all these scientific papers so they can do an article saying, oh, he was a liar and he wasn't an animal experiment. So what I did, I wrote a letter to them. I thought, I don't want to use my real name. So I thought, what I'll do is I'll use because my two middle names are Anthony Dennis, you see. And the Dennis is the Dennis with the one N, you know, Dennis with the one N. And anyway, so I thought I'll sign it Anthony Dennis, you see. So I wrote this letter, you know, pointing this out, all this letter, all this information in the letter, right? Anyway, when I wrote my name, I think on the D, I think I'd done the downstroke too long, you see. So I got a letter back from the newspaper, dear Mr. Penis. Dear Mr. Penis. So that was kind of the end of that, really. I couldn't really... So there
you shouldn't have been called Ronnie Anthony Dennis Lee. You should have been
Dennis
called
Lee.
Yeah, Ronnie Dennis the Menace Lee, I reckon.
And I thought, oh, we've had a letter here from a right prick. So there we go. So I think shall we end on that? Shall we end on that story? But just to say to everyone, right, we're going to have. There's going to be more of this because there's still more prison to come and more funny stories to come. We'll let you know very soon the next vegan run animal sanctuary that we're going to do, Jailhouse Vegans 5 for, which will be on in a few weeks' time.
We've still got the story about Ronnie being chewed off by another prisoner.
Oh yeah, no, it wasn't by another prisoner. No, I better tell this because I promised earlier.
No, leave it like that.
No, it's not by another prisoner. There is a funny story about a chewing. Well, not a chewing off, but the phrase that's going to come up. So that you'll all have to watch next time to find out about that.
You have to make that noise from that Chewie guy in Star Wars, right, folks? So
please give generously to Hugletts Wood, and also remember that, you know, sanctuaries everywhere need help and support. So, you know, everyone's got local animal sanctuaries. So please, you know, consider like supporting your local sanctuaries as well. They're all in need, and unfortunately, we can only, do these fundraisers for a limited number. I wish we could do it for all of them. So they all need help and support. But please give generously to Hugletts Wood, and you've just seen a small number of the animals there that are having a wonderful life that they deserve there, with thanks to Wenda and everyone there. So
well done, Wenda, because it's hard work running a sanctuary. So very, very well done, and
thank you.
Yeah, let's hope you have some success in the future.
Thank you.
Smashing. All right, folks. We'll hopefully see you next time. Look out for the on Facebook for the event for the next one of these, and join us again soon and find out about the chewing off and other.
Not to be missed.
That's terrible, isn't it? See you, folks. Bye.
Oh, your last two stories were about a penis and chewing off. So there you go.
I know.
Goodbye, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.